The evening sky over Seattle was painted with shades of orange and blue as Emily sat by her apartment window, watching the city lights flicker to life. The air felt colder than usual, though maybe it was just her heart. Her phone rested beside her, screen dark, silent for months. She stared at it as if waiting for something that would never come, a name that once lit up her world. Noah. It had been almost a year since they last spoke. A whole year since their love, once full of laughter and late-night talks, faded into silence. She still remembered their last call, his voice calm but distant, saying they both needed time to grow. It wasn't a fight or a breakup filled with anger. It was just two people drifting apart, quietly, painfully, like waves pulling away from the shore. Emily tried to move on. She buried herself in work, filled her weekends with friends, and told herself that she was fine. But every now and then, when the city grew quiet, her heart would whisper his name. She missed his easy smile, the warmth in his voice, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. Even after everything, Noah still felt like home. That night, while scrolling through social media, she froze. A photo appeared. Noah, standing by a birthday cake, smiling that same familiar smile. The caption read, "Happy birthday to me." For a moment, she just stared. Then a wave of emotion rushed through her chest. Surprise, longing, and a hint of sadness. She whispered his name softly, almost afraid of how natural it still felt. Noah. Her heart ached as she thought about how she used to plan little surprises for his birthdays. One year, she'd made him a scrapbook filled with photos and notes. Another year, she had surprised him with his favorite meal after work. Now, someone else might be doing that, or maybe no one was. She didn't know, and that thought hurt even more. She clicked on his profile, scrolling through the moments she'd missed. A promotion at his job in Boston, a few photos with friends, a trip to the mountains. He looked happy, but there was something in his eyes. A small trace of the boy she used to know. The one who always wanted more from life but never said it out loud. Emily sighed and closed her phone, pressing it to her chest. Her heart was heavy with unspoken words. Should she text him? Would it be strange after all this time? What if he'd moved on completely? But what if he hadn't? That question lingered in her mind as she made herself a cup of tea. The warmth from the mug couldn't reach the cold that had settled inside her. Memories played in her head, their walks in the rain, their coffee dates, their quiet nights when he'd fall asleep next to her, hand resting on hers like a silent promise. She had tried to forget. But some people leave marks that time can't erase. And tonight, looking at the calendar and realizing it was his birthday, she knew one thing: she couldn't ignore it. Not this day. Not him. She opened her phone again, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Happy birthday, Noah. 3 simple words. She typed them, stared at them for a long moment, and then deleted them. Her heart wanted to reach out, but her mind kept reminding her of the silence that came after they ended. Instead, she leaned back against the couch, closing her eyes. You probably don't even remember me anymore, she whispered to the empty room. But deep down, she knew that wasn't true. Some memories don't fade. They just wait for the right moment to return. The city outside buzzed with life. Laughter from the street, music from a nearby bar, the hum of cars rushing past. Emily felt strangely still amid all of it. She looked around her small apartment, the bookshelf, the half-finished painting, the Polaroids still hanging on the wall. One of them caught her eye, a photo of her and Noah from 2 years ago, standing by the lake, both laughing, faces glowing under the sunlight. She took it down, brushing off a thin layer of dust. Her thumb traced his smile, and she couldn't help but smile too, though her eyes filled with tears. You still make me smile, she whispered. Something inside her shifted. A quiet courage she hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe it was time to stop running from her feelings. Maybe it was okay to care, even if it didn't change anything. That night, she sat at her desk, pulling out a small notebook. On the first page, she began writing, not a message to send, but a letter she needed to get out of her heart. Dear Noah, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but today is your birthday, and I couldn't stop thinking about you. I hope you're smiling. I hope life's been kind. I just wanted you to know. I still remember. I still care. She folded the letter and placed it inside a small box next to an old photo of them. She didn't know why, but writing it made her feel lighter. Maybe she didn't need him to read it. Maybe she just needed to remind herself that love, real love, never truly disappears. As she turned off the lights and went to bed, the moonlight fell softly on her desk, glinting against the edge of the photo frame. Her heart still ached, but it no longer felt empty. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to whisper the truth she had been avoiding. I still miss you, Noah. And with that, she fell asleep, unaware that her heart had already started writing the next chapter, one where love might find its way back again. The next morning, Emily woke with a restless energy. Noah's birthday had stirred something inside her, a mix of longing, hope, and courage. She couldn't stop thinking about him. For months, she had convinced herself to let go, to move forward. But now, a small voice in her heart whispered that she couldn't leave things unfinished. She wanted to reach out, not just with words, but with a gesture. Something that would speak the feelings she had tucked away all this time. By mid-morning, she found herself walking through the streets of downtown Seattle, hands tucked into the pockets of her coat, eyes scanning the small boutique shops along the way. She had spent hours thinking about what to give him. It couldn't be anything ordinary. It had to feel personal, something that would remind him of the connection they had shared. The quiet moments that had meant more than words could express. Inside a small gift shop tucked between a bakery and a bookstore, Emily paused in front of a glass display. Her fingers brushed over a silver watch with a dark blue strap. She remembered how Noah had admired it once, months ago, when they had wandered through a shop like this. He had said nothing at the time, just held it, turning it in his hands with a soft smile. And she had noticed how his eyes lingered on it longer than he realized. It's perfect, she whispered to herself, heart fluttering. She didn't even hesitate. It wasn't about impressing him. It was about showing that she remembered, that she cared, and that she had held on to these small details that mattered to him. Her best friend, Sarah, had been texting her while she shopped. Are you sure about this? Sarah's words felt like a gentle warning. Emily paused to type back. I know it's been a long time, but some things can't be forgotten. She sent the message, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. After purchasing the watch, Emily walked through the city streets, the box tucked safely under her arm. Snowflakes had started to fall lightly, dusting the sidewalks and car roofs in delicate white. She thought about the year they had spent apart, the messages that went unanswered, the birthdays missed, the quiet ache that never fully left her chest. Yet, here she was, about to cross a bridge she hadn't dared to approach for months. By the afternoon, she had booked a flight to Boston. Her heart raced with the thought of seeing him again. Every step she took felt heavy and light at the same time. Heavy with memories and unspoken words. Light with the hope that maybe, just maybe, things could feel right again, even for a moment. The night before her departure, Emily couldn't sleep. She sat by the window of her apartment, the box with the watch on her lap, and replayed the memories she had of Noah. She remembered the quiet mornings when he would make her coffee just the way she liked it. His laughter echoing through the apartment when she told a joke too many times. And the times he would hold her hand tightly during storms. Both inside and out. She thought about the life he had built in Boston. The new friends. The work. The city that had become his new home. And she thought about her life here. The routines. The familiar streets. The empty nights that still felt like they were missing him. All the while, the watch in her hand felt like a symbol. A tiny bridge connecting the present to the past. A way to say without words, I still care. I still remember. I never stopped thinking about you. Finally, she packed her bag, making sure the watch was carefully wrapped and secure. The thought of walking into his life again filled her with both fear and excitement. What if he had moved on? What if the gesture went unnoticed, or worse, unwelcome? But even with those fears, she knew she couldn't turn back. Some feelings weren't meant to be hidden forever. When the plane touched down in Boston, Emily felt a thrill of nervous energy. The city felt different from the pictures she had seen. Smaller somehow, but familiar enough to stir old memories. She made her way to the cafe where Noah used to work part-time. The streets glowing under the winter lights. Every step brought a mix of hope and dread. She wasn't sure what would happen, but she knew one thing: she had to try. Standing outside the cafe, Emily took a deep breath. Her heart pounded in her chest as she glimpsed him inside. Noah, laughing softly at a customer's joke, his hair slightly longer, his smile still warm and familiar. She could feel the years they had spent apart melting away in that moment. The box with the watch felt heavier suddenly, not because of its weight, but because of the emotions wrapped around it. Hope, longing, love, and the courage it took to show up after so long. Emily's fingers tightened around it as she stepped inside, determined to face whatever came next, knowing that this small gift carried the words she couldn't fully say. This wasn't just a birthday present. It was a piece of her heart, a reminder of the moments they had shared, and a quiet invitation to reconnect, even if only for a short while. And in that moment, standing in the warm glow of the cafe, Emily realized that sometimes love required bold steps. Even when the outcome was uncertain. She was ready to see him again. Emily's heart raced as she pushed open the cafe door. The warmth hit her instantly, mingling with the rich aroma of coffee and baked goods. She paused, scanning the room. And there he was. Noah. He was sitting at his usual corner table, a cup of coffee in front of him, his eyes on the laptop screen. For a moment, time seemed to stop. She hadn't realized how much she had imagined this moment. Seeing him again, hearing his voice, feeling that quiet pull in her chest. Until now. Noah looked up, and his eyes widened. For a second, it was as if he didn't recognize her. Then recognition flickered, soft but unmistakable. "Emily?" he said, his voice catching slightly. He pushed his chair back and stood, a mixture of surprise, hesitation, and something gentler in his expression. She swallowed hard, gripping the small box with the watch inside. "Hi, Noah. Happy birthday," she said, her voice steady but soft. Her fingers brushed against the paper wrapping, a small reassurance that she was really here, really taking this step. He gestured for her to sit. The moment felt strange, almost awkward, yet comforting. They both had changed. The distance of a year had left its mark. But beneath it all, the connection they had once shared was still there, quiet and persistent, like a melody you can't forget. Emily placed the box on the table. I thought you might like this," she said, trying to keep her nerves in check. "Just a small thing." Noah opened it slowly, his eyes widening as he saw the silver watch with the dark blue strap. He ran his fingers lightly over it, and for a moment, neither spoke. It wasn't about the gift itself. It was about what it represented: memory, thoughtfulness, and a heart that hadn't let go. No matter how far they'd drifted, "You remembered," he said finally, a small smile tugging at his lips. His eyes met hers, and in that gaze, she saw a reflection of the same longing she felt. A year of missed calls and unanswered messages melted into the warmth of that moment. "I did," Emily said softly. "I couldn't forget. Some things, some people, they just stay with you, no matter what." She tried to keep her voice light, but her chest tightened with every word. She had imagined this conversation countless times, but now that it was happening, it felt more fragile, more precious than she had imagined. Noah laughed lightly, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. "I didn't know you cared this much," he admitted. "Honestly, I didn't think you would ever reach out again." Emily shrugged, hiding a small smile. I wanted you to know. I didn't come here expecting anything. I just wanted to say that you mattered, and you still do." They talked for hours, yet it felt like minutes. She asked about his life in Boston, his work, the new routines he had built. He asked about her studio, her paintings, the friends she had made along the way. Every word, every glance carried a weight that neither of them had anticipated, a mixture of nostalgia, regret, and the undeniable pull of old feelings outside. The snow began to fall softly, coating the streets and rooftops in a quiet white blanket. Inside the cafe, the world felt smaller, more intimate. They shared stories, laughter, and even a few comfortable silences, moments that spoke louder than words ever could. The gift on the table between them was no longer just a watch. It had become a symbol of everything unspoken. A bridge reconnecting two hearts that had never truly let go. At one point, Noah reached across the table, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I miss this," he said quietly. "I missed you." Emily's heart skipped. She had rehearsed countless ways to say that she missed him too, but now, faced with his words, she only nodded. "I missed you too," she admitted. The words felt heavy with truth and lighter with relief. A paradox of emotions that left her both nervous and hopeful. Time seemed to slip away. The cafe grew quieter as evening approached, the customers leaving one by one. Yet, they remained, caught in the fragile cocoon of reunion. Emily realized that this moment, this unexpected reunion, was not about rekindling the past immediately. It was about acknowledgement, about recognizing the love and connection that had never truly disappeared. Finally, Noah looked at her, eyes soft, a hint of vulnerability in his expression. "Would you stay for a little while longer?" he asked, his voice careful, almost hesitant. "I think I've missed more than I realized." Emily smiled, a tear threatening to fall. "I'd like that," she said. And so they stayed, talking, laughing, and sharing pieces of themselves they hadn't known how to express in the past year. The snow continued to fall outside, silent witnesses to a moment neither of them would forget. By the time they finally left the cafe, the city was quiet and silvered by snow. Emily held the box tightly, but it no longer felt heavy. The watch had done its job. It had opened a door, reminding them both that distance couldn't erase the heart. And as they stepped outside, side by side, a gentle hope settled between them, fragile, unspoken, but undeniably present. This wasn't the end of their story. It was only the beginning of a second chance, a quiet promise that some connections are never truly lost. And for the first time in a long while, Emily allowed herself to imagine what could come next. Not with expectations, but with an open heart, ready to embrace whatever path their reunion might lead them down. The cafe had closed hours ago, but Emily and Noah lingered, neither willing to break the fragile bubble of their reunion. Outside, the streets of Boston glowed softly under the streetlights, snow covering the sidewalks like a blanket of quiet memories. Inside, the air was still warm from the day's bustle, carrying the faint scent of coffee and pastries. They sat close together, not out of necessity, but because being near each other felt right. Natural, comforting, familiar. They talked about the months they had spent apart. Noah spoke of long workdays, nights filled with solitude, and a city that felt bigger and colder without her. Emily shared her own experiences, her art studio, her quiet victories, and the nights she had spent replaying memories of them. Every word was a thread, weaving a tapestry of their shared past and the possibility of a future, however undefined it might be. It wasn't a conversation about reconciliation or promises. It was a conversation about truth, about feelings that had never truly faded, and a connection that distance could not erase. Emily watched Noah laugh at a small story she told, and for the first time in months, she felt her chest lighten. There was still warmth between them, a spark that distance and time had only dimmed, never extinguished. The watch she had given him earlier sat on the table, catching the dim light. Noah glanced at it, then at her, his eyes soft. "Every time I see this," he said quietly, "I'll remember today. And I'll remember you." Emily smiled, heart fluttering, a mixture of joy and bittersweet longing. She hadn't come expecting gratitude, yet his words felt like a gentle reward for the courage it had taken to show up. They walked outside together, the snow crunching softly beneath their feet. The world felt quiet, almost suspended in time, as if the city itself was allowing them this moment. Emily felt a familiar warmth in her chest, the kind that came from being near someone who had always held a place in your heart. Noah stopped, turning to face her fully. "You're leaving tomorrow, right?" he asked, a trace of hesitation in his voice. Emily nodded, feeling the weight of the inevitable goodbye pressing against her heart. "Yeah, but I'm glad I came. I needed to see you, to tell you what I've felt all along." He took her hands in his, holding them gently. "Emily, I think we were too young last time. We didn't know how to hold on. But now I know I can't let this go unnoticed again." His voice was low, earnest, carrying a vulnerability that made her chest ache. She felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. "I don't expect anything," she said softly. "I just wanted you to know that I never stopped caring. That some things, no matter how far they drift, stay with you." Noah squeezed her hands. "I've missed you more than I realized," he admitted. "All the little moments, the laughter, even the silence. I've missed it all." Emily nodded, letting herself lean into the moment, allowing the truth of his words to settle over her like a warm blanket. They walked slowly through the quiet streets, talking about small, ordinary things, favorite books, music they'd discovered, plans for the winter. Yet every sentence, every glance, carried the weight of their shared history. It wasn't dramatic or rushed. It was simple and real, the kind of connection that doesn't need grand gestures to feel alive. Eventually, they found themselves at a small park bench, snow covering the ground around them. Noah looked at Emily, eyes reflecting the soft glow of the streetlights. "I don't want to lose this again," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily shook her head gently. "You won't. Even if we have to be apart sometimes, the bond we have, it doesn't disappear." For a long moment they simply sat together, letting the quiet snow and soft night hold them. Emily realized that the gift she had brought, the watch, was never just a birthday present. It was a symbol of time, of moments preserved, and of feelings that remained, regardless of distance. She had offered him a piece of her heart, and he had accepted it without needing words. Finally, Noah stood, brushing snow from his coat. Come on, he said with a small smile. Let's walk a bit before you go. Just one more memory for the road. Emily laughed softly, following him. They walked side by side, hands occasionally brushing, the air between them filled with an unspoken understanding. When it was time to part, Emily felt the familiar ache of goodbye, but it was softened by hope. Noah held her hands once more, looking into her eyes. This isn't the end, he said. Not really. We'll find a way back to each other, in some way. Emily nodded, feeling tears slip down her cheeks. I believe that, she whispered. And with one final squeeze of his hands, she turned and walked away, letting the quiet snow embrace her as she made her way back to her hotel. That night, lying in bed, Emily reflected on the day. She hadn't needed to force anything. She hadn't demanded a promise or a future. She had simply shown up, shared a gift, and let the truth of her heart speak. And in doing so, she had reminded both of them that some connections are never truly lost. They wait, patiently, for the moment when hearts are ready to meet again. For Emily and Noah, that moment had finally arrived. It wasn't about rekindling the past immediately or rushing into decisions. It was about acknowledging love, respect, and the quiet power of memory, about realizing that time, distance, and silence could never fully take away what had once been real. And as she drifted to sleep that night, a calm settled over her. She had given him more than a birthday gift. She had given him a reminder of love, of care, and of the possibility that some bonds endure forever, quietly, waiting for the right moment to shine again.